Now, the UhamboLwethu Concert fundraiser taking place at the Wits Theatre is an exciting event that aims to support the Uhambo Luyazilawula Performance Studies International Conference. The event promises to be an incredible showcase of talent, art and cultural celebration, all while contributing towards an important cause. Headlined by musician Bongeziwe Mabandla, all proceeds from this event will support the Uhambo Luyazilawula Performance Studies International Conference, the first of its kind in Africa. Well, joining us in studio is the event organizers, Hamish, Neill and Traver Mudzonga. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning.
Traver, let me start with you. Talk to us about this entire concept. What is it about? What is the inspiration behind it?
So the fundraiser, it's connected to the conference that we're having, the PSI Uhambo Luyazilawula conference, which is bringing in performers, academics, and people who are connected to performance wanderings, which is within the performance studies for the first time on the African continent, that will have global knowledge developers, performers coming to Wits University and our site partners around the city to gather together, share their processes of knowledge development. And for us on the African continent, when it comes to knowledge development, we're saying process is also as important as the results, because within embodiment, we find ourselves.
Neill, why is it so important that we find ourselves? I like what Traver is saying, but why is that so important?
I think because for so many decades, actually, performance studies has often been written from an outside perspective around how and what we do on the continent. And so we're saying, well, you know what? There are many of us who have been writing, reviewing, making and reading the work, and we're ready to own our own voice and tell our own stories. And so this concert this afternoon is going to be the first step in us declaring that. So having the lineup that we do, it's all about allowing artists who themselves are using their voice to tell their unique stories, to sort of break the ice for us. And then we hope that other institutions, other academics, other artists, other practitioners, whether they're in institutions or not, will also join in.
I've seen Bongeziwe Mabandla there, been one of my favorites too, but speak to us about his involvement there and why was he almost like the obvious choice to be part of this?
Well, I think first and foremost, we were saying, you know, who is a young, vibrant, dynamic artist who is really proud of their identity, proud of their culture, and has not only great artistic skill and ability, but a deep understanding of their language, their work, and what it means in terms of identity. And so, thankfully, we spoke to Bongeziwe's management, and as soon as they heard, they said, yes, we're absolutely here for it. And we must say they have been incredible. Bongeziwe has been incredible. Because we came up and said, look, we don't have a lot of funding. It's the first time this is being done. So there's a lot of tentativeness, you know, can you really pull it off? And Bongeziwe just said, yes, I'm coming through and I'll bring my magic.
Awesome.
So
talk to us about the academics and the scholars that are part of the conference and the conversations and how you went about selecting or, you know, speaking to them and those conversations in the build up to this.
Awesome. So locally within the Wits University, founding director and head of department for Drama for Life, Warren Nibi, will be one of those presenting at the conference. And then also within the School of the Arts, we also have other departments like the Cultural Policy and Management, Dr. Mnyaradzi Chetikobo, bringing in a panel. And then from abroad, we've got people like Elizabeth Adna and performer, poet Annette Adna also coming in. We've got a duo coming in. They've just recently moved. I think they're in between moving between Berlin and back into the US. Leila Zami and Oksana Chi. So the selection people, it's in two parts. Members of the PSI, Performance Studies International, write in, and then they propose abstracts, and then a committee sits onto the abstracts and then begin to look along thematic areas of performance studies, of migration, of the environment, and looking into that and saying who's the best fit in the theme for this year, the 28th conference of Uhambo Luyazilawula, of who in their work is looking into process. And that was the main indicator of who do we want to bring diverse voice, diverse practitioners and diverse approaches to their work.
Hamish, speak to us about how the proceeds of the concerts will go towards Uhambo Luyazilawula and how the two are connected.
So Uhambo is a sort of grounding term and phrase for everything that we're doing, this idea of journeying. And so from this concert, those funds are actually going to unlock registrations for our postgraduate students and hopefully some undergrad students. Because it is an international conference, there is a slightly higher fee than usual. And for many of our conference practices, particularly in the South African context, conferences are usually heavily subsidized or free. And for this one, unfortunately, we couldn't get it all the way down. And we know the realities of students, we know the struggles of students across institutions. So we said, you know what, let's do something to create access. Rather than just having those who have access to research funding or support from institutions who can get paid for, we said the students will be left out, and we don't want that. So all the proceeds for the UhamboLwethu Concert today are going to go directly towards student registrations.
And speak to us about the interaction between, the people that will be attending the conference and the speakers. How important is that in making that a success?
So for us, that interaction, firstly, it's bringing in an international platform onto the shores, right here where we are, and saying, actually, there's a way in academia, in particular, that the Global North frames and looks at performance studies. And then we're saying, but us in Southern Africa, there's a way where almost every other thing we do, rites of passage, rituals of life, there's a performative to it. There's always a misconception that in Africa we don't document, because usually we don't document in the form of documentation that is privileged in traditional classical way of study and research. But our bodies are part of documentation. The question now for this conference is, how do we remember to read the documentation that is within our bodies? Because within that, being able to sit within ourselves and to express and actually say, autoethnography is a valid way of research methodologies, to be able to sit within self and process. And we look at psychiatrists like Carl Jung, who talks about unless we make the subconscious conscious, we go through life thinking it's fate. And in Africa, that's one of the things we're very great at, embodying, moving to the rhythm, not just for entertainment, but we sit with many things and we release many things through our bodies. So that connection is bringing the two and many multiple ways of meaning making, and say, this is important for us, see how we document, see how we perform, see how we do our academia, and still arrive at empirical evidence.
All right, Hamish, give us details. Concert time, all those details, ticket details and all those.
Fantastic. So we start at 3 o'clock this afternoon at the Wits main theatre. You can buy your tickets online at quicket.co.za and just look for UhamboLwethu Concert. It'll come up there. You can buy tickets at the door, but they're selling out. We've been looking online. So we implore people to buy online and come ready. But 3 p.m. it starts, and by probably 5:30, if it gets really sort of vibey, we should be wrapping up. All
right, I like the sound of that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming through, talking to us about that was Hamish, Neill and Traver Mudzonga talking to us about the concert that aims to, of course, bring back the arts in Johannesburg. It's at Wits today.